third eight on it, so then third. That's what's fun. Of course, I keep telling you, that'll be a little bit mean.
And I
don't like it. I had a kid. And you go, when some people ask me, don't you feel bad when they get so bad, better than them? I mean, it comes down to that. One or the other, you know. One of us is going to be. I'd rather just burn up the leaves. They don't understand. They don't understand. Yeah. When we play games at church parties and stuff. I have never seen the kid better. I'm always thinking strategy. That's just me. If I play a card game, playing. Have you ever played church plays
Okay, I got 7 o'clock. Can't hurry.
Everybody.
Go ahead and get started with the pledge of allegiance.
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mike's, obviously you can see Mike's out of town tonight, so we're running the meeting. Andrew, you want to do a roll call?
Presenting. Present. Joe. Present. Mike Peter.
Present.
Pete Brewer.
Present. Okay, you all have the copy of the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as presented.
Andrew, roll call.
Rick Henning.
Aye.
Joe Root.
Aye.
Mike Reeder.
Aye.
Pete Brewer.
Aye. Was that right? No, there wasn't a sheet of it. Is that my job? I'm not gonna say, you're in charge tonight, so I run a little behind. It's been bad last week and today. So,
No public participation. We didn't give enough to do.
if there's anybody that does, then we'll give them that. Okay, let's go to the auditor's report. Andrew?
Got March reconciled over last week. It was a bit of a bear. Got through it. This coming next week, not this week, the following week, is the Connect conference that's all online. So be interesting to see how that works out. I've got a bunch of classes that I've got set up for on demand, so I'll be able to go through those.
Did you check the cert?
I sent them, yeah, I sent them the info to me. We've got a couple extra codes. I know if you use one, Stacy. So we've got, I think they had 6 this year.
So we have Stacy's and Becky and Sarah's. Do they have points with the one? It is one, yeah.
So, and it's all through their website. So as far as how many people are sitting behind the screen,
When I saw there, only a couple of lines, everything else is like piece of one.
yeah, their keynote stuff's live, their closing stuff. There's a handful of like panel. Usually they'll have like discussion panels where people are talking with the person about the system and sort of user feedback. Those are all live this year, just because of the nature of how they run, either in person. Yeah, most everything else. Information. See how it goes. That's it. That's all I got.
Did the other board members got any questions for you? We go to building office, Stacy.
Like Peter said, I'm signed up for classes next week, and then Chris had the annual report sent over to my office today. And we'll start putting that in the utility bills, beginning with round one, which will probably bill around the 3rd of May. So we'll run that all through May. That's the only thing I have.
Any questions for Stacy? Next, we'll do electric report. Phil?
And we get brought the stuff back online, take the line. It's back tomorrow. So now we're going to 28. A really good start on that. And then keep up with the day-to-day jobs for the rain. And Chase Simmons is back to this pretty good pension fund.
How much better is it for you guys to do that lane traffic? Being shut off, a lot better and get a lot more done, I'm sure.
Are you allowed to? I made my first pass through there today in the funeral procession. And so they allow you guys to get down in there where they're doing a subgrade to do your work and everything.
Matter of fact, they got out of the way today. So just trying to get the millions in, extend the streets out, driveways. I was getting their snow money and last two or three, and then get back to that.
I noticed they were grinding from, say, the railroad tracks all the way outside State Highway Garage. Are they tearing that all out now too?
He told me it goes all the way to where they quit now and they're tearing this year, right now. They jumped the tracks today.
I thought one of the phase paperwork that I had seen or something, they were stopping at the railroad track.
That's what I thought too.
And they were next year or whatever, they was picking up the railroad track and going all the way to 200.
So he was going where the milling is stopped right now. That's they're removing blacktop and concrete. We're jumping over like in July to the north side, coming back to where they started. Everything from Jackson to Hope is the next year.
How many more poles you got to replace, Bill?
We've got a whole set for next section.
Okay, do we have any more coming on back then?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well,
is that next year?
yeah, we'll try to get one that we get started.
How many just refs?
For two little single face taps, and then the main one would be the 3-face with both from the jail people starting. So maybe a couple dozen most.
Okay.
This is the chunk we do now, and then the one for those, that's the biggest part of the job.
All right, we'll go to sewer maintenance, Jim.
While the roads flowed down to one lane up there, we cambered all that from Nickel Plate up to the river tracks. There were 7 houses with problem, the laterals out in the 28. So while the roads flowed, we're gonna repair them, replace them from the main up to the curb. We'll put it out. 3 of them have Orangeburg and 4 of them have offset joints or rusted clay. So we're gonna wait until they pull the blacktop concrete off and then we're gonna be clean up to that. Put all the new from the main up to that curb. Then we cambered 28 from Clay Street to Young while that was closed. And that's 2,800 or 2,300 feet. I can have pictures of the next meeting that needs line real bad before they start up there. It's actually
What size is it?
8 inch, 3 inch. We quoted that a couple years ago, actually, and just a year. And I think I did it a year. Never knew it was really that bad. Just wanted to try and get it done before the project. And while the lane was closed, we had to do it.
was more, maybe we need to some point repair before they can. It is, the line starting on 28.
I got that information that we didn't discuss here. Or we can do it now while we're talking about it. It's how we want to do it. Okay.
So you said it's 2,300 feet.
Yeah, 2306 from Clay to Young. That's not counting Clay down to the bridge that we included last year. We have not got down there because that was still.
Can we, is there three different companies that do the lining where we could get 3 estimates?
I don't know where there's fishing for them. Yeah, and CSO.
Why don't you go ahead and get us a, so we at least know what we're talking about, where we can. Get that taken care of.
309 East Green has a abandoned gas line through the sanitary main. And it's been backing up 309 East Green. Twice a month. We've been have to go down, run the main and get it open. So today we changed it, found out that gas line was in there, and I called that person, some crew to dig up the main and remove the gas line out of the building. And one day this week, that's when we'll have the safety meeting out here. Shane has this available with wastewater and water. One on trench safety, and the other one on the confined space. The insurance company emailed me the link to a video, how it's processed, and we'll do it afterwards. Maybe get back to the follow that. Everybody can sign papers stating they was involved. We'll do that. That's all.
Who's taking care of for PJ? Like that, or you
I can, PJ, well, of course, with the routine maintenance and everything that's going on, he starts to keep up with mowing. He had this right here, I'm gonna pass out for you guys to look at. I know Mike Krieger's already been there to see this stuff.
Just cabinets.
Yeah, due to the cabinets in the lab, that they had to take the kick plate off because of the work they're getting ready to do and replacing the floor and everything. And they're pretty much shot inside there. So he got a hold of, started looking online and got a quote from a place in Chicago. And sent them a layout and everything, and you can see back on page 5 what they would look like. And the cabinets would come with all the countertops and everything. We can do all the labor to take everything out, put everything back in. And the total, this comes with the sink and exhaust hood and everything on there. And I'm looking for the right page with the right quote on it.
I think it's 25,698.
Yes, I would correct.
that.
That's a comparison,
Right.
Joe. It is what it is. But that's like I said, with us doing all the labor and everything with it, and having brand new in the lab with this. And I was thinking that we could use depreciation to pay for this. We were looking into it. It is something that could go to SRF if we change some documents, but for that price, it really wasn't worth paying interest and stuff on. Right now, in depreciation and wastewater, we're just a little shy of $800,000 in depreciation in our depreciation fund.
Well, after being out there seeing them, they're falling apart, the resting. They look like they've been there for about 70 years.
Yeah, I don't know how long they've been
I think it's a no-brainer. We need to move forward. I don't need to take this long discussion.
there. Okay.
I mean, that's my opinion. We need to bring it out a few, but
Yes. Yes.
Are there any national standards that this new fume hood meets? Textile Association, laboratory?
It's coming from a laboratory place, Rick, so I'm assuming that, I know you should assume, but I'm assuming that they have all the correct specifications and everything in there. The quote is.
I'm like Joe. I think this is no brainer to do this.
Don't half-ass it, it would be.
No, it is, well, you can see the other closest comparison, and those, the other quotes did not come with an exhaust tube in it or anything else, so that would be separate or a sink basin, and these things are coming from a laboratory that way.
I also like the epoxy paint.
Yes.
Really well.
Yeah.
That's a standard we have.
Especially doing all the repairs and the painting and redoing the floor and everything else, those cabinets just were the shop. They were.
Are we doing any treatment for?
Yes.
Epoxy, variant and epoxy floor.
Yeah.
So we don't want to throw away.
And that's part of,
Contract that out or?
no, that's part of the.
That's part of the
project. Right. All the floors in the building are getting redone.
This is your neck. of the woods.
I'm going to move with the motion that we accept bid for 25, 698.
I'll second that.
Any other further discussion? Roll call.
Ray Denton.
Aye.
Joe Root.
Aye.
Mike Rear.
Aye.
Ken Rose.
Thank you, everybody.
And I want to say I appreciate the documentation versus just a verbal, hey, we need some new cabinets.
Yeah. Well, I know Mike was out and he took some pictures, and then I got with PJ and I said, hey, let's get a couple different quotes to get this. And he did a fabulous job with it.
I've seen them before, but I
appreciate
didn't do this band.
They weren't that bad until they pulled the kick plates off of it. Or if you open the cabinet doors, you can really see. So, first time I ever done that, it was appalled.
Yeah, in part of the lab, it was actually set up 2 stations, identical stations, and we don't need that. We just need the one side, so the other side will have cabinets, but it'll be more of it'll be a working space, but we're not replacing 2 sinks, so the two exhaust units or anything like that. We're just going to put one side, the other side will be more of a work area, and just a little bit more breathing room as well.
It's looking nice out there too, by the way. So, I like show and tell.
And construction, of course, is still coming along. We got one building brick, getting ready to start on the drawing building. And we go from there, they didn't decide to paint and do the stuff. But,
Well, and the material came in for the clarifiers, correct, Mike? The moving parts.
so that's all still moving along. Very well.
Those are huge.
You see those big clarifiers.
And just another one on wastewater here. Talking to PJ with the clarifiers, I think.
Filters are
The filters. They've got replaceable pads that go in. They have to be replaced every 7 years. The tune of $58,000 to replace them all. So PJ and I was talking that he's going to need to get that put in his budget rolling. Otherwise, it's going to be a big hit 7 years down the road. Right, Mike?
That's correct.
We don't want to see that. Not seeing it up front.
Can I make a comment on your dime?
absolutely.
All right, so I'm excited about this whole project, and I believe I talked to Ken briefly. I'm going to talk to you, Tom. I'd like to ask board's permission to have Todd, our TM, set a date. Due to global warming, it's going to be a little chilly next week, so. But when it gets back in the 70s, I'd like to ask the board, request Todd set a date, invite Mayor Judy and the entire city council and the board to a walking tour of that wastewater treatment site renovation and rebuild. Maybe invite local media as well as department heads. I think it's worth that. I'd like to get some photo opportunities to put on the website, do some storytelling along that line. Okay. Again, when the weather's good and when certain farming schedules allow, and I don't know when that is, but we'll get a rain sometime.
Rick, my suggestion would be, obviously, everybody out there will have to have a park. But I'm not sure that they have that many. And so maybe split the groups, see how many they had, or, you know, to go, you know, we take the city council and our entire board, you know, there's 12 people. I know when I go out there, I work home, but I don't know, like that, we got, I mean, they ain't gonna have that many around, and so
I've got
you might go in groups of 5.
Well,
Or something if you could get them to.
yeah, you bring up a good point, because there may be other PPE involved, maybe safety shoes are required, I don't know.
When they were saying they really, once you went to the construction site, they were once have accessibility, that's on construction site.
Well, I like the idea of split it up, and I don't know what the constraints are as far as PPE.
I mean, if we do it, if, I don't know, what time, do they leave at 4, Mike, or are they there till 5, you know?
Leave at 4.
You know, we might be able to get away with a little bit of it if they're not there and the machinery's not working, but they got 2 huge cranes always going and everything back there, so maybe it's something we can work out with the construction crew as well.
Well, if we're taking photos here and there, we probably don't want photos of people that are asking.
Yeah.
Outside.
Yeah.
Just be asking.
That would be much lighter.
That's what.
So, and it's gonna take a good hour and a half per trip to get through.
Are we okay with maybe Todd does preliminary planning, breaking into 2 groups? I've got,
Well, if we can go when they're not working with the cranes or anything else, then we may be able to get a tour without the hard hats.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Nobody's working.
And there's a lot of moving parts out there during the day. I think we have to do it after 4
well,
o'clock.
let's do that at 4.
Okay.
Well, now that we're on Mitch's time, it'll be dark from 10 o'clock.
Oh, this is falling, yeah, that's, I agree with you.
So, yeah, we can go out there.
That's soybean lobby, you got that, I tell you.
Yeah, we'll get something set up, that's fine.
Okay,
I would confirm with the construction company if they're okay without hard hats.
Okay.
Because typically, even if you're not having moving equipment and you're on site and there are holes you can follow it, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So just make sure that we're not committing those violations on there.
Well, the holes are digging, if you don't see them, you deserve to fall in.
Our dad, you know,
I
all day
understand
long.
that. I'm not the one that makes the rules though.
let's get somebody.
I just make sure you follow.
Rescue 1 outside.
Okay.
Let's leave that at Todd, you do some checking.
Okay.
And next board meeting, report back.
Okay.
What you find.
Safety equipment. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, I'll do that, not a problem.
Confer with our attorney to make sure. See,
That's great there.
Okay, I haven't talked to her on the phone for a couple of weeks. I thought she might be thinking on that.
I was beginning to think you were the same one. Then I've been so busy, I've just been counting my blessings that you haven't needed me, so it's all good.
Good. By the way, down the road, the water works plant renovation gets in full swing. Let's just get into that.
Okay.
Water works plant.
Sounds good.
All right. Mike Beck, you got anything to add to what was talked about on the wastewater?
I got one item of information. It's that time of year again for the consumer confidence report for water. And so that's been drafted and at the printers and Stacy and her folks are going to help us mail those out with the bills. And we'll be in compliance once again with that requirement.
Mr. Chris?
Wrapped up the pre-con for the water treatment plant today, so all pre-cons have been done for all the water improvement projects. They're gonna start with demo at the McKinley plant sometime this month. They just moved the job trailer on site today. State Road 75 started today, so it's down to 1 lane, probably till June 4th. When substantial completion is for it. Guys, the 2-inch tap out at NHK for irrigation, the new main up there. There was a tap machine in the claims, which we had to have for that new C900. And And then State Route 28 has kept us pretty active the rest of the time.
Questions, Chris? Oh, let's see, Lagoons is next, let's go to Rick, you're next. Okay, and you want to go out?
Get your fire back up over
Yeah.
here.
So I'll be brief. In our last meeting, I think we heard from some lagoon visitors in like Stanford. Okay, please. There's some suggestions offered to improve the lagoons in particular ways, and I would be remiss not to say that we're already on track with all that. It's already well known, and it reinforces that we're on the right track, so we're taking a lot. So this is an update as of today, and I'll be quick. So first thing I want to say that we appreciate particularly the support of the county highway department, because they've spread gravel, they've road graded, they've cut back brush and trees, and done a fantastic job. But we appreciate everybody who supports Lagoons and supports us in supporting Lagoons. That's kind of a short list there. While I'm on this topic, I will be drafting for our next meeting a letter of appreciation that I'd like the board to sign to the county highway department to thank them for their support in this year in particular. If you have any questions along the way, just shoot. Now, we're not unusual as a utility company, small and that, in investing in the environment. That comes in different forms, financial and otherwise. As one example, late in 2020, Duke Energy issued $235,000 in grants in Indiana. And there's a short list of some of the things they allocated those grants to. Some of them were matching funds, some are just free money. Noblesville, Wildlife Federation, Franklin, Arcadia, where that is, Sullivan. And so we're kind of like a small utility, right? So the fact that we're investing in lagoons as a nature preserve and as a place to go fishing and look at birds it's completely in the normal scheme of things in terms of what utility companies do nationwide. What we talk about in that vein is the phrase public use amenities. So it's a group of features at the lagoons that the public can use, and they're managed at various organizational levels: towns, cities, counties, regions. They're managed by different means: trusts, foundations, federations, not-for-profits, governmental units. In our case, we're a utility company that manages the site. One of the shared concepts is positive environmental impact, promote nature and wildlife coexisting with people and places, and further natural wildlife destinations. Now, those are not my words. Those are what we find commonly across the Midwest, in particular, upper Midwest, and even down south. These are how utility companies talk about their efforts to sponsor a local environmental area in their region. We continue to invest in lagoons. We have operating expenses like pumping water, water testing, porta-johns. We have maintenance that goes on out there. And we recently installed a new security gate at the entrance. Todd, thanks to you, PJ, and whoever else is involved in that. Good job on that. The business purpose of lagoons, we want to remember, it's stormwater management. The land use classification, which is what the government pays attention to, the entire area is classified as wetlands. It's owned by the city of Frankfort. We are the property manager according to state statute because it is a utility, part of the utility system. So, too many minutes. So we all know about some of the amenities. This is ran as a free access, public use, native wildlife sanctuary. That's a mouthful.
we want to kind of keep it in that vein. We're not intending as a board to go outside that realm. What you see there is a list. For example, we like the idea of bank fishing. We don't like the idea of boat fishing because that brings in liability and risk and bad things that can potentially happen. From the city side, in the city plan, it is zoned as parkland. So that's again consistent with the current use. This just reinforces the idea of everybody getting along and the idea of things in balance. So from time to time, and Joe Root will attest to this, we've had people, fishermen want to flood the lagoon to the north, the nature wildlife wetlands area, flood that and put fish in it. And we've had other people want to drain it. We've had people bring fish from Salamone and dump them in our lagoons, which is, according to state statute, illegal. It's classified as stocking the waterway, and we want to control how that waterway is stocked, not having people bring fish in from wherever. But nonetheless, public use is not without limitations. That should go in said. There are some federal laws that apply out there, believe it or not. State laws, fishing regulations, hunting regulations. City of Fragment ordinances apply because it is city ground, city property. No dumping, alcoholic beverages prohibited. And then we have USB site rules as far as the hours of operation, no boating, no drone use. You might ask yourself, well, if I'm taking the time to talk about law enforcement, enforcing the rules, how many of these are really a problem? Anything in red is kind of a problem. We've had those experiences the past year and a half. So the majority of things we need to try to do a little better, and that brings me to another topic here in a moment. The actual city ordinance about alcoholic beverages reads pretty strictly, and this is a zero tolerance ordinance section. So I know a lot of people will disagree with this, and they like to have their beer while they're fishing. Technically, that's not allowed. Now, I'm not going to go out and write tickets. It's not my role. But you do put yourself at risk if you're out there and the police officers come by. That's up to them to make that judgment call. So we have a group of enforcement partners. And we do see all these folks out there periodically. Sheriff's Department, conservation officers, there's two different ones that show up out there from time to time. And I almost never went out there myself without running into a Frankfurt Police Department officer, either incognito or in official vehicle. They are out there a lot. As of April of last year, there have been 156 different bird species documented at our lagoons. Those are on a website there. And that's kind of the list. I know it's hard to read, but individuals make bird sightings. They take photographs. They propose that to this website, and then they're listed accordingly. Recently, we had a discussion in our last meeting about tree trimming, the good, the bad, the ugly. Kind of led to another round of soft complaints. No one got out of hand. They weren't happy. But the opinion on tree trimming and bird habitats vary. And I went out and just did some random sampling of some guidance on those topics. And there's a list from a well-published author, Letta Meritz, down to IDEM, Indiana DNR, Indiana Tourism Bureau, Chicago Botanic Garden, and the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. I found some interesting stuff. I won't take the time to walk through all of it. But basically, if you read the blue part,
Bird nesting is a year-round activity. Anytime trees are trimmed, bird nests are at risk. And the conclusion you gain from this well-known author is trim the trees when the need arises, because birds use trees year-round. And that's what we did this spring. The Chicago Botanic Garden gave information that suggests that tree pruning of any kind helps tree growth, and it promotes healthy trees, that promote healthy wildlife. They advise not to trim trees late in the season because of freeze over. Visit Indiana has some guidance about staying away from nesting areas, and this was all written for Mike Kelly's benefit. Doing anything anytime near a bird nest is discouraged, and not unlike modern golf, being around bird nests is best accomplished by referring to your handy rule book and the use of a calibrated rangefinder like golf down balls. So the point is, there's guidance that is issued by experts that basically tell you a range of things to do in managing the site. And if you add them all together, you kind of come away with the conclusion you should do absolutely nothing. Indiana University in Bloomington recognizes this landscape website as a authoritative source, and their catchphrase on their website is at the very bottom: never trim any tree branch, because that branch may have been a branch selected by a bird in the future if it only had been left in the tree. So again, we can't win for losing. I feel, and I'll speak for Todd and I feel that the trimming of the trees around that wetlands area to the north was a fantastic job to get the growth way back. It will grow back in more dense fashion at that limit or at that edge, and it'll look fantastic. And we think the guy did a great job of doing what he did. So as you look at the advice of experts, you basically come away with, wow, anything you do is frowned upon. So we got to be mindful of that. As we try to follow the advice of experts moving forward, what are some things you're going to see? Let's talk about one of the best things we can do is to continue to maintain the seasonal wetland area as a seasonal wetland. Now, what do I mean by that? When it dries up, let it dry up. When there's water in it, let the water stay in it. When it's wet in spring and in the winter, that's great. When it's dry in August, that's fine. Let it go up and down. That's a seasonal wetland, and IDEM really encourages that, mainly because most of the wetland in Indiana has been taken over for various purposes: farming, cities, roads, health concerns. So we actually need all the wetlands we can get in Indiana. I know I'm probably boring you. Next month is Wetlands Month. We're going to try to have some stuff for the community on that. That's kind of an overview of our different functions and our community amenities as we now have it. Here are some management practices we're going to use going forward. Our wetland restoration is done. As we know, the level of water fluctuates in that northern wetlands from about 1.5 feet, 2 feet down to zero. There's areas that are pretty large that are just simply muddy a lot of the time, and that's perfectly fine. So we don't plan on changing that at this point. You're going to see more and more brush piles at strategic locations around lagoons. That offers protection for wildlife. We're going to create some snags, dead trees in the ponds to help fish have a safe habitat for various purposes. We're going to be planting some trees near the ponds in the front, and we're going to fence those in to keep errant vehicles from getting too close to the tree sequence. The main benefit of what we have out there is the edge habitat, and that's simply the area from the woodland to the open space the water, to the dry area. It's that edge that most of the habitat is where it's found where it's most valuable for wildlife and so forth. So it's a great site for that purpose. And then we'll be creating some woodland openings as well over time. Budget-wise, our current donation fund is $3,600. We have not spent any money to date, but as you know, there have not been any donations made since 2017. So I'm going to try to step that up and encourage people to donate. If they have they find the site is a good place to go, drop $1 in the kitty. Try to get that thought in mind. An important project I'll be getting quoted. This is the overlook at the wetlands area to the north. If you look closely, it's not entirely safe. In fact, what was built is not entirely safe. Mostly 2x4 rails, treated 2x4 rails. Some of the 2x4 railing was spliced together, so structurally it has no integrity at all. And I have sketched up a design to replace all the 2x4 with steel channel and steel angle iron. And so we're going to be looking for a welder with a welding truck to come help us with that at a low cost operation. Replace the decking material. And then if you're familiar with hog panel or cattle panel, it's the welded wire fencing you see out at Rural King. The idea would be to place that along each side and around the perimeter so small children can't just simply fall off the edge of the platform. Today it's wide open. It's been wide open for 25 years. And it's about a 30-foot drop. So we want this kind of child safe as well. So hog panels around the outside welded in will keep small children from escaping over the edge, if you will. There's a picture of the hog panel. Going to be adding some fish structures. This idea came from Indiana Department of Natural Resources fish and wildlife expert that I met out there last fall. And you basically take 5 used wooden pallets and you put them together with non-corrosive fasteners, and you have somebody with a crane or a boom truck lower them into the pond below the surface. And that is where fish, it's great fish habitat for fish to gather around and breed and so forth. So that's something that they really encouraged us to do that we don't have in the past. We lost one of the 2 charcoal part grills to theft a year and a half ago or so. They're available from Amazon at about $160 each. So with the board approval, I plan on replacing the one we lost. We currently have one, and we have 2 picnic areas, picnic structures. So replacing the other one makes sense. And then I'd like to obtain quotes to repair and paint both of those picnic structures. The paint underneath the roof is flaking off. It's been there for 20 years, and I think it's due to be cleaned up and repainted. Lastly, borrowing from the National Park Service, I'd like to move toward standardized signs. And these are just simply cedar boards that you route with a router, lettering font, and you paint in the font in a yellow color. And those have about a 20-year life if you do it with a good exterior epoxy paint. So we don't have a lot of room for signage or need for signage, but some signage would be helpful out there. So I'm done. Any questions? Did I talk too much? There's a plan. Try and make this better for the community. And one of the things I have not mentioned, but I will, part of making this better is a new security system with a driveway sensor at the gate. So that's part of this plan. And what we're trying to do is cut down on the people who go back there at night and do
do things that are generally illegal. So we'll see with that. Thanks for your attention.
Well, thanks, Rick. I guess after the last board meeting, I believe, when Mr. Hammer was here and everything else, me personally, I feel that it's very disturbing for somebody like him to go to the county highway. And obviously, if we had a problem with it, we should have showed up here like he did. You know, I mean, we can't say what the county highway will do in the future after that episode. So we may have lost all the help of the county highway in the future on some of that stuff.
I'm not aware of that. That's one of the reasons I want to do it.
Right. And I think they need a letter of apology for this one.
Well, Mr. Kelly and Mr. Hammer are acquainted. And I was going to talk with Mr. Kelly about that. And I feel the same way. I think he was completely out of line. I think it's counterproductive. I don't want every member of the public doing that. That's exactly what I don't want to be doing.
You know, we don't tolerate it with the sewer department.
No.
We don't tolerate it with the water. We don't tolerate it with the electric. And so, you know, to me, that's a different department. We had talked about, I believe it was mentioned to have City Light Power go out there and trim the trees. And that's what I mentioned, you know, they got enough on their plate that we need to, you know, look at hiring somebody to come in and trim the trees back. And so, you know, obviously, you know, PJ talked with them, I'm assuming, or somebody talked with the county highway. And, you know, a day or two after they were here after our last board meeting, I drove out through there. And, you know, personally, like you and Todd, we stayed, you and Todd agreed on, I thought it was an outstanding.
That was the word we used.
You know, cleaning it up. You know. We're appointed to run that place, and you know, we have a budget for it. You know, it's you know, we do get requests. People want streetlights. People want this and want that. You know, and a lot of times that doesn't happen. I mean, it does if it's needed around through there, and you know, I just was not impressed myself with, you know, the approach they took to handle the situation out there. You know, if they want us to spend some money out there and everything else, I think they're going to have a better demeanor when they come for us to ask for stuff. Obviously, we have a liaison for that with you. Should have been you. You know, they're somewhere in the set of rules or whatever needs to state that they're to talk to the liaison for that and bring all their current concerns and questions there instead of moving in the direction they did and upset possibly the county highway. I don't know, you know, but you know, don't know the conversation that went on or anything with them, but it sounded from what Mr. Hammer had to talk, things didn't go very well in the conversations.
And I understood that he talked to the guy that was out of the actually talked about. I didn't know that I didn't understand that he went to the county.
Yeah, he went to both.
Oh, he did both. Okay.
Mr. Hammer came in my office
he was given quite a bit of information. He was thoroughly not understanding what we went through over the past 20-some years I've been. He was given copies of the rules adopted by this board. He was given copies of letters from DNR, he was given copies of letters from Dan Bloodgood, suggestions and things look forward on how they should be operated. I think he was very happy to get the information he got and it dispelled a lot of the theories that he had. There's a lot of misunderstandings. I think he seemed very happy. The only thing he didn't get was, I have a copy of the actual plans for the Lagoons from day one, the elevations and everything else, the structures and the depths and this, that, and the other. And I was not able to copy that because of the mere size of it. I don't really think it's been something he really needed for his own benefit. Those will always be available. Because if they want to copy them, I'm not going to pay for copying them. They're big stuff. They just don't feel we need to do it.
I think, one thing as far as the budgets, I think, in our budgets for next year, we have $12,500 is what we had towards the lagoons. If I can remember correctly, $3670 that have been donated, that is a 50-50 match up to $5,000. And so, yeah, so technically they've got another 3,600 that we have always said that we will match. 36, there's 7,200 right there on top of 12. So that's going to allow in the neighborhood of $20,000 to get started with some stuff.
And certainly, we're almost into May. That would get us through the remainder of this calendar year. And we're going to be in next year's budget. So I think we'll be fine. And one of the things I want to do is table that request for additional monies. So I might be part of the conversation. So however that works out, we can work with it. There's money available to get projects done. I felt as you did, and I think everybody is allow people to make a mistake once. But when I go back and recall what caused me to step forward as the Lagoons point person, was much the same turmoil and concerns by the public about the site being shut down for COVID reasons initially back last April, March, April. And so when it got to the point when the mayor was getting harassed, I called her and I said, let me fix this. So the board supported me stepping forward in that manner. And the first thing I did is went and spent 3 days on the site. And I met about 20 people that you might call regulars, among which was Mr. Hammer. He has my cell phone number. He has my email address. He knows where I live. And he chose to gather some comrades. And after he yelled and screamed at the store I had, at the county highway operator, and all that was uncalled for. So not only did he disturb the county highway organization, he riled up some of the other people that go out there and spend quality time. We certainly don't want that to happen. And I think that's best addressed in a small forum. I totally agree with you. My intent is to sit down with Mr. Kelly, who is pretty, I would say, not something close friends, but they're acquaintances, let's call it, and have the three of us sit down and kind of walk through, here's what we go and have it, here's my contact information. You have to sort of get a little bit. Certainly come before the board if you wish, but I'm a point person for a reason. And I hope this is a lesson learned. I hope this is something that he takes away and says, yeah, I will do that. Let's do this stuff. Too much of that, and I'll be flipping on the other side. I'll go out and get the CDL. I'll help there's a reader here haul dirt from the wastewater treatment plant, dirt pile over there to fill in the lagoon. So I'm not married to this. I'd like to see it be successful.
Well,
But
that,
if we can't keep the noise down, I'm not in it for the,
That particular night, there was a request for, is there any place to put all of the rumble that's out at the hospital?
Actually, I got an email on that today. They're looking to do 80 to 100 dump truck loads of road. One note we have is where we need.
We have a place for it.
I'm not kidding. It came in about 3:30 this afternoon.
Right. But, you know, I mean, it's been my thing from 11 years ago or so when I came on here is when the next factory comes to town, we fill it in. It would have been that, but, you know, we've inherited them. We gotta make them work. You know, we gotta work with them. And, you know, it's the ratepayers of the city that, you know, my vision of that is if the rules, if trimming is not done, it's gonna be a walk only.
Yeah.
Bird feed.
Yeah.
I mean, the trees will come out and, you know, then they'll be in here saying, hey, you know, we can't get our cars through there. We need to turn around.
Well, as you mentioned that, in my discussion last summer with the same individual, we pointed out that by allowing vehicles back there, we're allowing folks that may have a heart condition, maybe they can't walk very far, to go back and enjoy the wildlife. So we've already been there, we've already talked about the idea of the importance of being over animal lagoons. And since I was a kid, one of the things I've commonly see is a Western Manor bus for older folks that live in Western Manor driving around the wetlands on one side, just as a tour, and going about 3 to 5 miles an hour, stopping here and there. And they really enjoy that. So there's a lot of reasons to keep that operating, but I don't want the noise and chaos. We've got to filter that. So I'm totally on board with you.
Okay. Well, I think tonight we've had enough discussions on that, considering the other stuff.
Yes.
And so, you know, in all respect to everybody's.
I know they say what you get. I've been on this board over 20 years. We have the same discussions every 2 or 3 years. It's a different person standing at that podium. They all have the same concerns of what they want, not what anybody else wants, but what they want. And that's one of the problems with the lagoons. It's a multi-use facility, and everyone out there should have the capability of doing what they want to do as long as it's within the rules. But everybody wants to change it the way they want. So this isn't a new discussion this year. This isn't something that just popped up. It happens every year. We just need to go on, manage it as what we see fit. And if they don't like it, they can go to the other ones.
All right, we'll move on. Next on the agenda will be general manager report.
Well, as Chris had mentioned, we got all our meetings wrapped up with pre-construction things, and so all that's last week we was for full meetings. INPA will be here at your next meeting. They have a proposal that they want us to look at with buying out 2 grants areas of our substations. And they want to buy out that lease where they would come in and do repairs and take ownership of that. And I asked the question, how is INPA benefiting from this? Because you're not going to spend, I mean, they're talking about spending millions of dollars on our substations. And I'm asking how they're going to benefit from it. And nobody will answer that question. So I finally just said, well, put your presentation together and come down board on May 3rd. So they said, okay, so we're all going to hear what they have to say. I have a feeling that something goes well as they plan, because the meeting, I've had 2 meetings with them now. It have gone well, so I told them your best bet is just like.
So they have a contract or anything?
Yeah, and I think, well, right now they're trying to get us, and I talked to a couple board members about this. Last year, they came to us wanting to extend the contract with a 50-year agreement with a 30-year notice of not renewing. AAA bond rating, AAA plus bond rating. And they're in these communities, and a lot of smaller communities have been on this, but the larger communities that they have been not. And I think my personal opinion is they're wanting to get involved in our substation so that we're gonna have a longer term agreement than what we have had. So I think right now, this one was 2042, is that right, Ken?
So I thought it was 2035.
It's 2035.
Is it
Right now, they presented to the Lebanon Utility Service Board, I believe it was mid-February, on the same idea. In their case, a 10-year extension of the contract and a 30-year notification period.
Yes.
It was amended, so it is to 2042,
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. as of July 2007.
Now, where they lost me personally, and why I would, as one board member, I do not want to extend anything.
Oh, no, I didn't.
They lost me when they built a $19.5 million headquarters in Hartford. That was completely unnecessary.
Oh, yeah, that's
We
what I
paid
saw.
side.
That's only the side.
Yeah, we paid for that. Oh, it's probably open.
I mean,
Get them up for money for the lagoons.
it's a talk.
Naming rights.
Well, before we approve anything, I'd want to see the contract.
Oh,
If
right,
you don't think
right.
we're going to, then
No.
there's no need for me to.
All we have to
spend
do,
time reading.
all we have to do in 2 weeks is just hear them out. And, because somehow, so when I asked the question, how are you benefiting from this, spending millions of dollars, conversation pretty much ends.
And you know what's peculiar about that?
There's a lot.
Don't you attend board meetings as a board member or input? So you're on their board and they won't answer your questions?
Yeah.
That's peculiar.
So,
I've been dealing with INPA for 27 years, and INPA does nothing, absolutely nothing, unless they're going to make money.
yeah, that's what's going on here. So,
Well, hey, I'm glad they came to you this time. Last time they approached me first, and I said, what do you want me to do about this? I'm not the person who makes any decisions.
Thanks for the heads up.
not a problem, not a problem. Last, and then, Ken mentioned it earlier, the lining of the sewer that goes along 28, it's down in the ditch. We've got, different prices here. We have them from North Pipeline and Stitch Form and, Cooley for the, manholes. And to do, what was it, 26 manholes, they have a price of $51,250 for those. And there's, as I was just looking through these, and Jim and I was talking here briefly, Miller Pipeline quoted doing the whole stretch along 28, and they have it down to 3,695 feet. Where Stitch Form quoted it, and they're at 2,931 feet. And Miller Pipeline didn't realize that there is over 700 feet in there that's already been done. So we need to talk to them about the quote, but they quoted us at $82 a linear foot. And Extension Point quoted 2 different ways. They quoted us doing a section this year, probably a section next year, and then another section. But that price came in, if we would do it in sections, to $98,000.
For 3 sections.
Yes.
800.
Yeah, so if you take that off, it would have to be done in 3 sections. So, but if they do the whole thing right now, they priced it at $80 a linear foot at $294,000.
Does that include the manholes?
No.
Manholes is separate.
Manholes is separate.
Where does this right away lie?
What do you mean?
Where is this green?
It's on the south side of 28 down the ditch.
Is it in state highway right away?
Yeah.
We have talked and we have approved money 4 years or so ago to get it done. Obviously, it didn't get done. And so, I think if we talk about it now or whatever, I think we use that as a project, our stormwater projects for this year here. As the whole thing got spent last year on Michigan Avenue storm stuff. You know, I feel we just need to move forward with it on the, you know, to stop the stormwater infiltration out there. We've talked, Todd and I have talked to he was going to talk to Jim about putting flow meters in there so we can see how much we are having currently. Then after it gets lined, and how much we're reducing that's going to the wastewater treatment plant. Out into there, and you know, as one vote, you know, I feel we just need to move forward and get that section done. It's been a thorn in our side section for several years, and it was approved. I think I could go back to spend $150,000 on it, and it didn't get done.
So can we take this on the store? So it's $345,250 total for, are we okay on that? I mean, you're on the financial side. Do we have enough money to take that out this year?
If it's 290, if it's over 150, then we have to do invitation for bids. So we have to do formal bidding.
Okay.
If it's over 150,000, if it's over 50,000, we do 3 quotes.
Okay.
So we got 3 quotes, and
So for that one, we're fine, but for the one that's more expensive, we will need to do.
well, can we cut it to?
I mean,
Well, we can do it, we can plan on doing it in sections.
it's
Right,
it's
that's what I'm saying.
sections,
Do a section here.
Exactly, not cutting it in half, just do 3 pieces.
Yeah.
I mean,
Can we do a section this month and a section next month?
if we're gonna do it in 2 sections, then we would need to have 2 separate sets of quotes.
We can get that.
And if we do 2 separate sets of quotes, then we would need to award each quote individually. And we would need 2 motions and we would need 2 votes, and then I can be satisfied with
We
that.
can do that.
Okay. You want to get to this?
Well,
next
well,
board
the
meeting?
question,
Yeah, well, we got the one for Hulu. The one for Hulu would be okay.
didn't we talk about in our last meeting, temporary flow meters?
We've got those in place now. We got one more week, right, to be in place, and then
We're
we're
going
gonna.
to have a splendid rain dance, because like, it hasn't rained hardly any.
Well, and that's really what we really, the reason these flow meters are where they're at is because we were hoping for,
Right.
hoping not to get much rain. We're just looking at
We need
the,
to specify what
flow.
section you want it.
the
No, we're
waste
doing-
flow.
doing-
We're
What
doing
sections
concentration.
do
We're doing the lining of the
These lines here,
right
we
now.
want to rain.
Right, I'm fine with that.
That's a
Let's push it
50
down.
and 250. They're not doing anything on the others, Joey.
Right, and when we ask for these quotes, we need to have 2 separate,
Okay.
completely delineated, 2 separate projects that they're quoting for, and specified exactly what we're talking about.
So here's my question, does anybody know the answer? What's to say the state highway, I mean, they put in corners of state roads in our community, the semis can't make the turn, go over the sidewalks all the time. So they're not known for doing everything perfectly well. What's to keep the state highways from changing the elevation of those ditches, because they want to? Or infill them like 6 feet? I mean,
Our manholes are,
These are down in the, these not there, they're down in there, because that's part of the problem.
they're right in it.
They go along mowing, and they'll knock.
So are we in a state right with it? So it would be our expense to move,
so.
if they decide to.
Right, I'm reminded of the storm, I'm gonna call it storm sewer, maybe, is that not what I'm saying? The risers that are in Prairie Creek, 15 feet above normal creek level. I guess I'm concerned about in the state right of way, if we were to do this project, who decides what elevation everything rides at? And is it gonna change?
The state
State
does,
does.
yes, it will change.
So would we get some kind of engineering drawing from them that says this is the elevation we're shooting along this road? And you guys can design to it? Would that be what
But
we
they
do?
can change that next
Well,
week.
no, we're not changing anything, we're just lining,
Yeah.
what's
Just
there.
lining what's there.
We're just lining what's there.
Yeah, the state can change
Let
whatever
the
they
mowers,
want.
get the,
Well, no, this way,
They're
if
right.
you go with two, you'll know if the tops and everything will then be bolted and latched in place, so the mowers can't knock them off anymore and do everything else, so they're gonna tear something up. But, if they, you know, but we're not gonna adjust anything in the state right away, it's just long.
Done. I'm good with moving on, because we talked about that.
Okay, Jim's good.
Yeah, I got a couple of things. There's only 2 lining companies that I got quotes for. You mentioned 3. The other one is for the manholes.
Right.
So I need another one.
So we need for the, yes, and for the manholes, we only have 1 quote for manholes?
Yes.
We need 3 quotes for manholes.
Okay.
We need three quotes for each.
What if we get them to lower it below 50 grand? Then do it.
If you get it lower, below 50 grand, then we can do it however we want.
Okay, we'll work on that.
Yes.
It should have stayed low.
Yeah.
Keep
Hey, my job is to keep you out of trouble.
Yeah, but she would have to fix what we did
Yes.
in the next meeting.
Hey, trust me, how the prevention is kind of curious.
We'll work on them on the floats. I mean, it's only off by $1,100.
If it's under $50,000, the public purchasing statute, which I have pulled up right here, states that we can do whatever we want. If it's under 50,000, and then if it's between 50 and 150, then we can invite quotes from at least 3 persons who would deal in classes of supplies.
Okay.
So we need 3.
Yeah, if there's 3 companies that do, I'd only bring 2, I've been on there to work with for,
the manhole.
you know, the lining.
Yeah, there's more than 3. Or there's 3. There's more than 2.
I mean, we
CSR.
We just have to invite quotes. We don't have to actually get 3 quotes. We just have to offer to 3 companies an opportunity to provide a quote. So if we only get 2 quotes, but we ask 3 people, that's fine. We just have to ask for 3 people.
Okay. I can do it.
So,
Where can we get those quotes?
no, deals with plastic,
I'll work on that
plastic
for
is
next
sold. No,
But another thing, we don't, in my opinion, we don't want to line the manholes without lining the lines. Line the lines first and then the manholes, but then you don't get the joint of the pipe.
so what we need then is we
Can't
need
go do one first, do the manholes, and then go back and do the lines.
but we need a quote for less than $50,000. So we
Okay.
can't act on the quote that's over $50,000 at this time.
We talked about this area as in citizens. So we're already collecting stormwater fees. And we're by law required this, we can't sit on piles of stormwater tags without spending it. And lagoons are part of the stormwater system as well. So if we can spend that. All right. That's all I can.
All right.
Right?
So basically what you need to do then is get a quote that's under $50,000 for the manholes, and then
Okay.
move forward with that, and then you need to split the project into 2 separate projects with 2 separate quotes, and invite 3 different companies to quote for said projects, and then we can move forward.
Okay,
And
we'll have that
then
ready
we
the
have,
next meeting.
That's easy.
there you go.
All right.
Keep us outside here.
Mhm.
All right, claims. Everybody's at the claims. Entertain a motion, or is there any discussion on the claims?
I'll move we accept the claims as presented.
A second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Joe Root.
Aye.
Rick Gilliam.
Aye.
Mike Rear.
Aye.
Ken Brewer.
All right. Legal briefs.
I've talked enough tonight.
Guys are working overtime.
Yeah. I don't have anything, he never left here, called me with anything on old business. If I have anything with old business. Moving on. New business, I got ACH discussion. What's that?
Well, it was not my intent to have an ACH discussion, but Mr. Kelly put that on the agenda that way. My intent was simply to ask the board to ask Todd to have our staff, Todd and Stacy, look into ACH. I didn't want to analyze it during the board meeting. I didn't want to get into a 30-minute back and forth. It is an alternative way to receive payments. I think it's worth looking into. Lebanon does it now, Zionsville does it now. And the interesting thing is, there is no fee as in credit card transaction fee. So I just like someone to look into it. Okay, Stacy?
We currently accept ACH transactions. As of the end of May, we have 1,645 accounts on ACH transactions.
Why does no one know about that?
They do. When we have customers come in, set up new service, we tell them, that's our preferred method. Most people don't like to do it though, because they want to have control of when their bill is paid. All they have to do is come into our office, fill out the ACH form, give us a copy of their voided check, and then their payment will come out on their due date or the first business day after that, never before.
So let me change my request. Can we get together some kind of communication thing on how this is an alternative way to pay?
And we also, when we have customers pay with check or credit card and they're paying a fee, and they ask, well, is there any way to pay without a fee? We always tell them that.
Okay.
But some of
So
the
it doesn't
people that
sound like
probably
there's-
house that way.
It doesn't sound like there's any problem, except in my household, my wife doesn't know about it. And she refuses to pay a credit card fee. So she drives over to the billing office and pays the bill personally. And she's not alone. She does a lot of her friends do the same thing. So somehow we need to get this out.
We could, let's get through the, consumer confidence report, which is gonna take a
No
month
problem.
to do that, and then we can put something into the envelopes for the next one. How about that? Would that work?
That would work. However, I think you probably have a better, reach to the public if you put it on Facebook, because most people don't even open their utility bills. You would not be surprised how many people bring our inserts back into it.
You can figure it out.
But I mean,
That's right, we'll work on
It
it.
doesn't sound like it's gonna be a problem. And I thought we already,
I thought we had this for many years.
we have, I personally have been on it for 12 years.
Yeah, I mean, we've had that for many years.
used to be, with my wife, with my friend.
We got a nice little Dropbox over here. I use one. It's pretty convenient for me. I just drive to Dropbox.
And it's not-
That's fine with me.
Okay,
All right.
any other questions? Mark, you got anything tonight? You been sitting back there asking, how's the migration
I
going?
did find some humor in the lagoon discussion. If you ever want to fill that in, the bulldozer in those banks would be a really good start, because like they scoop that out, and one of the things I checked years and years ago is the bottom of that, the bottom of those ponds are lower than my property. Or higher than my property, I'm sorry, that's backwards. So it's kind of been built up instead of dug out like a lake, you know? So you can fill it in if you want to, but you might want to calculate that in before you put the
Dirt in there, so they don't run on you.
I thought there was something in the contract for those who were purchased that if they were not used, they had to be, the sites had to be leveled out so the ground was back the way it was.
Well, we're not gonna worry about those little contracts. I don't think they're valid. There's a lot of stuff in those little contracts.
Clarence, got any questions for us?
I have one quick thing. It's kind of your old business. So 10 days ago, I attended a web training session on our new city utility website. We have a user manual. I'm working on some preliminary things to kind of get some good structure to what our website looks like, and some templates and some standard book documents and stuff. I've started a list, which I won't read out loud, of problems with our new website. And one of the significant problems is we cannot post audio-visual files to the website. There's many remedies to that. Some are more our side than theirs, but I'm going to lobby the city to add that to the feature set, because I think virtually all social media allows you to do short videos. Why can't we? And then there's a lot of issues about our operation being referred to as municipal utilities, not Frankfurt. Board members are listed as employees of the utility, not board members. So I have a list of things that need to be fixed, and these things are they're at the level of the website code. They're not done in the articles that I can change and they get us to the website host has to do those. So my intention is to get this list of those folks and get started on it. Let's reach agreement on what's going to work on, what's not going to work on. And pretty soon I'll be looking for, and I think we'll start with these. I'll be looking to interview, let's just pick a name, Mike Beck. Be looking to interview someone like Mike Beck and get like a short one-page article on Mike Beck and his job here at the utilities and what he's brought to the party, and start putting superintendent and employee information on the website. It goes without saying, at some point we'll merge or we'll move over the billing and ratepayer information that's on our current website to the new website. All this is going to take some time, and we just want to do it methodically, so we do it once. And I'm happy to help each department. I don't want to do it for each department. I want to help each department get it done well. And it's not a big deal. It's just going to take some time to focus. With this, where we are today, I was hoping to be at this point in November, but we are now finally here. There is a website, there's a structure, and it looks very similar to Noblesville City website because it's the same design, the same web host. So that's all I got.
Before closing, I got one last comment. I got to see our attorney fall in love with a baby pig.
Who I named Wilbur.
Take them all.
I'll make a
I
motion.
wish I could.
I'll make a motion.
So, yeah, she has made her visit with her 2 kids, and
They're so cute. That was a bucket list item, I just have to say, so dreams came true that day. And Wilbur is super cute, and I'm really sad that we're gonna eat him.
I think they're in the city, I think in the ordinances, they're considered. I think they're considered domestic animals, not livestock. You can have one at home.
Well, you can, but it has to be, I think, domesticated, like a potbelly pig or a toy pig. I don't think it's.
none of ours can breathe.
Well, obviously, you live in this.
Well.
Motion for adjournment.
So much.
All in favor, say aye.
Congratulations on that.